What is Israel? Okay, we're going to take a little quiz. Raise your hand if you think Israel is A, a country. No, really, raise your hands. Do you think Israel's a country? Okay. B, a culture. C, a people. D, all of the above. There you go. I also think the answer is D. A similar question could be posed about the Jewish people. Are we a religion, a culture, a people, all of the above? I think the second question is easier to answer because we encounter it every single day. We attend religious services, we eat kugel and gefilte fish and other unpronounceable foods. We can spot each other from across a football field. Judar is real. It is embedded in all of us from the moment we are born. If you are feeling like your Judar is off lately, flex your skills somewhere you are most likely to be correct, like Cast Like Sandbar or Steve's Deli. That will build your confidence for sure. The question as to what is Israel is more difficult to answer. It helps when you can go and experience it for yourself. I've been blessed to visit Israel many times and live there for my first year of rabbinical school. And still, every time I see the hills of Jerusalem, when you round just the right curve coming from the airport, I cry. It is as though all of a sudden the air is different. It's just more special. From the moment the plane touches down, it feels like everything changes. Hebrew, the language that for centuries was saved for prayer, is being used to buy bananas and bargain for souvenirs. The landscape changes from north to south and east to west. Every stone under your feet has generations of stories to tell, and sometimes you can almost hear the stones speaking and revealing their secrets, eager to make you part of their history so that years from now they might tell another traveler that you were once there. And you really can sit under your own vine and fig tree in Israel and not feel afraid, as the prophet Micah promised. And guess what? We took 90 teens to Israel, and we weren't afraid. Unfortunately, they leave you exactly 0 time to sit. Do you know what else we weren't afraid of? Throughout the teen mission, when teens would tell me that they felt oddly comfortable in Israel, almost like coming home, almost all of them would add, and I don't worry about getting shot here. In a country where every third person has an Uzi on their back, we were not afraid. In Israel, our homeland, the Jewish state, we felt safe. We felt like the land had opened its arms and said, Bruchim habaim, welcome home. What's funny in Israel is that while it is abundantly clear that you are a tourist with your fanny pack and your camera and you're sweating profusely, it's more difficult to figure out who is Israeli. I said to our guide that I don't feel like there is a look that all Israelis have. Some are blonde, some have dark skin, some have black skin. An Israeli could have red hair and freckles or resemble Jasmine from Aladdin. What's funny is she told me she can spot an Israeli anywhere, but has a harder time telling if someone is Jewish. Our people are a rainbow of colors. We bring to Israel the heritage that was passed down to us. We put it all together and create something new. With the teens, we met an Ethiopian Jew who taught us about the history of their community. She taught us different dances, and we got to try Ethiopian food. It was quite eye-opening, as many of us knew next to nothing about the traditions of the Jews from that part of Africa. And just as the teens were realizing that Israel looks like every place, desert and forest, salt and fresh water, they were also learning that Jews look like all people, black, white, brown, and everywhere in between. The teens loved to interact with Israelis. They would show us selfies they took with people that they found interesting, or stories about someone yelling at them in the shuk or in the street and how funny they thought it was. That's always my favorite part, when Israeli culture hits them. Seeing Jewish ritual and tradition in the streets and Jewish ritual objects in every store is a shock. In a world where anti-Semitism is on the rise, and some of them think twice about whether or not they should wear a Jewish star in public, this was the opposite. they started wearing Jewish stars and chamsas. They bought necklaces with their Hebrew names and t-shirts with Hebrew writing. They also bought t-shirts with Hebrew writing that were entirely inappropriate, but of course they did. The point is, everywhere was Jewish. Everything was Jewish. The teens would report that they ate the most delicious dish ever. They had no clue what it was, but they said they never had something so good in their life. The boys on my bus danced at a bar mitzvah celebration at the wall like they were part of the family, and the family welcomed them that way too. They mourned on Mount Herzl as we looked at the young faces pictured on the graves as though they had lost a dear friend. Once Israeli culture settled into their soul, it settled for good. The teen mission is an all-day, all-night trip. Teens need a lot of sleep, and they were exhausted. They would ask me for a slow rest day, a day to do nothing. And of course, my response was, with snark, by the way, that's what Shabbat is for. Every time this happened, their look on their face would say, that's brilliant. And I would smile and remind them that while some things are open in major cities in Israel, the rhythm of the week in Israel really revolves around Shabbat. So much so that Sunday is called the first day, Yom Rishon, Monday is the second, Sheni, on, and Saturday, of course, Shabbat. Shabbat definitely took on new meaning for them, and they were grateful for the rest. While some Shabbat services were more successful than others, Shabbat brought everything together for them. They were Jews, praying in the Jewish homeland, surrounded by Jewish food, music, art, and history. Click. I will never get over the moment I see the click. When a teen realizes that Israel is even more than a country, a culture, and a feeling. Israel is the best feeling. For 24 days, Israel was our state of mind. Everywhere we went was history. Everywhere we went was the present. And they were all twisted together. And though everyone felt different feelings at different times, we all felt one feeling the entire time: pride. It was like somehow our ancestors did this pride. And I want to be part of Israel's future pride. Last May, I was the lucky one who gave the sermon during the height of the war in Israel. I'm not exaggerating when I say that I wrote 12 different sermons. I ultimately sent version number 13 to Rabbi Aaron Bergman and begged him to read it. We both came to the conclusion that no matter what I said, someone might be upset. I could either be so pro-Israel that I did not acknowledge the issues that Israel faces, and there are many, both secular and religious, and look like my head is in the sand, or I could criticize Israel and have some people see me as anti-Zionist, or that I'm maligning the only place in the world where Jews are welcome and safe. Version number 13 walked the line as best as I could, because the fact is, I love Israel, the country, the people, the culture, all of it. But I also take issue with Israel on certain realities on the ground. The need to fully recognize Reform Judaism and give it equal benefit and acknowledgement in Israel. What's happening in the West Bank? Israel too is experiencing a rise of extremism of all kinds. No place is perfect. No people is perfect. We are not an exception. But conversely, we shouldn't be treated as an exception when it comes to defending our right to exist and defend ourselves. Truly, our homeland is the epitome of the Jewish people and Jewish culture itself. Diverse, spicy, deeply rooted, funny, sacred, innovative, and eternal. Israel is everything. If you haven't been, consider joining me and my family, Rabbi Josh, Cantor Smolash and his family, and Rabbi Loss and his family in December for the family mission. We do have a few spaces left. You can include family from anywhere in the country so you can experience Israel together. Or celebrate Israel's 75th birthday with Rabbis Loss, Rabbi Yedwab, and Cantor Michaels on the Motor City mission in March. I wish I could use some of the words the teens described to describe Israel here tonight, but honestly, we would need a teen to adult translator and maybe a bleep button. But the point is They let Israel sink in, and they let Israel stay. God willing, Israel will stay with them for the rest of their lives, and they will have many more opportunities to visit and absorb the country, people, and culture that is Israel. Israel is everything. Shabbat shalom.